Hi, good morning. My name's Rich, and this is the FMCG podcast. Very pleased to have Cian on the show today from Elm. Elm is a data consultancy. We're going to get right into the story soon, but just quickly, the FMCG podcast, if you've not come across it before, we're all about bringing you some of the best interesting stories and insights into what's going on in the world of FMCG and how you can become a better leader. Cian, can you just give us a quick overview of Elm, you and Emily, the founder story, just so we can get the context, set the scene as to you guys and what you're all about?
Yeah, for sure. So Elm is all about basically bringing kind of data superpowers to challenger FMCG brands. What that actually means is we build kind of an all-in-one data tool that essentially does as much of the data processes and data jobs and work as we can possibly do for a brand every given week or month or whatever a brand might need their data in. So basically the basis of the tool is kind of four parts. There's data extraction. So we hook up to, Sainsbury's, Tesco, Waitrose, Ocado, Amazon, Shopify. We hook up to all the major kind of sales channels, extract out that data, so your sales data on an automatic basis, daily and weekly. We then store it in a secure database, visualize it on a dashboarding tool, and then finally drive kind of turn that data into action. So give you a bunch of things that you can do as a brand to drive revenue. Where it kind of came about, so or our background, myself and Emily, we both actually met at Uber, the taxi startup.
Oh yeah.
So we were our backgrounds are both in tech, and in tech startups. I'm Irish, so I was working in a couple of startups in Dublin, and then joined Uber to start launching markets for them in the kind of early days. I then moved over to London to look after kind of retention and engagement, but broadly within the world of data and data analysis. Emily is a data scientist, so her background's in data science and economics and statistics. So she was a data scientist at Uber. And then since our Uber days, we've been consulting and working in a number of different startups, not within the world of FMCG until, probably just over a year ago, which we might get into, but was always kind of helping startups with data and building solid data foundations so that they could grow their business and build a solid foundation and strategy. And that's kind of where Elm came about from, was we saw an opportunity within FMCG that the data tools were, in our view, incredibly lacking, and they were often lacking and always expensive. It's the way we saw it. So we saw an opportunity to try and basically democratize access to data superpowers, as we call it, but data analysis, science, all that kind of stuff, so that brands can really be judged on the quality of their product rather than the size of their team or whatever might happen in that way.
Yeah. No, it's fascinating. Like we obviously we got linked up through the podcast that we did with Dr. Wills, and like I said in our first conversation, kind of our office hobby is try and cool new brands and do podcasts with them. It's kind of our way of trying to give back to the industry, and it's definitely been something we've talked about before in the office. Like Adam, the fact that insights do seem to be the domain of bigger suppliers that have got those massive budgets for insight spend on, Kantar, Nielsen, Amy Data, whatever it is. So there's the minute you sent me that connection request, I look at your website, and I'm like, this is fascinating. I've got to chat to these guys, hear the story. So how long have you guys been going now then? Is it 18 months, 2 years?
No, so it's actually under a year still. So we started building in April of last year. The kind of background to that was I was actually helping a brand called Lucky Saint, a guy called Luke at Lucky Saint. I was helping him out with some e-com work as a consultant, so one day a week, one day a fortnight. And from that I got my first look into the world of data within FMCG. Notably Sainsbury's Horizon system. And kind of saw how some brands can struggle with that, and they can really find it difficult. Even the extraction bit, even getting the numbers out of there can be tricky. But then really driving action from that was kind of lacking. So working with Lucky Saint and then with a couple of the brands, we started thinking about this around this time last year. In April, we decided to build something, and we figured. The we is myself and Emily. So we figured at the very least, hopefully we'll be, I'll be a great consultant for Lucky Saints and make something that they can use forevermore. But potentially there is an opportunity to build something. So we started building in April of last year. And then in May, we launched like a beta, which was with eight brands. Dr. Wills was one of them. So we launched with 8 brands, and we basically kept it at that all summer. So up until October, pretty much, we didn't onboard anybody else, and then we just started opening up. Then we essentially had to rebuild the whole. So we built it within the first version within 4 weeks, with intense work for 4 weeks. Kind of
nights
yeah, 2 nights. But we built it in a way that it was essentially our MVP, right? So it was at a point where we knew we could get enough from the market and from users to understand if it was useful, and if there was something in there that could be of value. As soon as we saw that, we had to basically scrap the first version, start again, and build it with kind of scale in mind, so that we could kind of scale beyond those original 8.
Yeah. But the kind of light bulb moment came from when you were working with Lucky, saying as a consultant, you thought, there's an easier way to do this. This doesn't need to be this difficult.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that exists. You know, when I was with Lucky Saints, and kind of asking them a lot of questions about this, I found it a lot. But I actually went away and I actually spoke to, I think he's like a head of data. Don't want to call him out, but something like this at Heineken. I spent a bit of time with a couple of the early dunnhumby employees.
Yeah.
So I went around and I spoke to a few people just to understand, because I was like, I can't believe that, you know, some of the data processes and ways to actually understand data in this industry can be, you know, frankly quite antiquated and very old school in their approach. And nobody has layered on, you know, what I've seen at Uber, what I've seen at other tech startups, you know, the kind of future of data and where we're moving to from a you know, data infrastructure and data engineering point of view, that hasn't been applied to this whole industry. And so I went and I asked, you know, the Heinekens, and I asked the dunnhumbys, the people I thought maybe would have quite good answers and tell me that no, you know, forget your idea, this exists. And I didn't find that. So that was kind of it, really. You know, a couple months of asking around kind of industry experts, if you like. Coming up blank. You know, honestly, a lot of the answers were, well, you know, the tools are the tools, and that's just what we have to deal with. And then the have to deal with it, the way it was dealt with was just put more employees. So just keep adding people to the problem, and then the people have to fix the problem, which is not a good solution, right? And there is a tech first solution, is what we're trying to build.
Oh yeah, I mean, the guys I know in FMCG sales and marketing that are really gifted, they don't tend to be the really techie people. You know, they want the data available at their fingertips so they can do the bit that really adds value, which is getting the concept going, getting the brand finessed, going and selling the product. You know, it is really an industry built on relationships. So if you can solve the downtime fiddling around with data, there's going to be a lot of people interested. And it's fascinating as well listening to your story there of how you and Emily have kind of come to that light bulb moment, because something that we've noticed doing podcasts with lots of startup brands is a lot of these this kind of industry disruption that's happening. It's coming from outsiders. It's not your stalwarts that have come through the ranks at Mondelez and P&G that are necessarily spotting some of the new niches, whether that's a service or an application for an existing product or a new recipe. It's the guys like, you know, Dr. Will. He's a doctor, isn't he? And he's saying, hang on, ketchup should be healthier. Why can't it be? And, you know, I love that, because in FMCG, there's always endless opportunities for newcomers if you've got something that adds some value, which is great. What just can you give us an example? Like, give us a bit of a demo of what the interface looks like for people. Yeah. I've selected so you can share your screen, so it should work.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So before maybe showing the dashboard, so I was kind of touching on a bit of the product, and this is actually, so before we get to actually what someone logged in and sees, is the whole extraction and storage. So the extraction element is, so this is exactly as you were saying, you know, a lot of this industry is not, you know, and it shouldn't be, you know, you shouldn't be a data infrastructure genius, you know, in order to build Dr. Wills or build Ollie's Olives or anything like this. You don't need to have that knowledge. Now you can if you want to, and you know, I'm sure it would help, but you know, you don't need that knowledge. And so this is where, you know, as we start speaking to bigger and bigger brands, and they have bigger and bigger teams, and they're all just kind of expanding the team out, that's fine. But, you know, a lot of the stuff we do is going to be the boring stuff, right? It's not, if I'm a data analyst, I don't want to spend all my time cleaning data. Like that's the boring bit. I don't want to have to, you know, every week do the same process of trying to get my numbers from Sainsbury's, from Tesco. And that's where we're just saving brands time. So exactly as you said, like you want to get to the numbers ready to go so that you can drive insight and actually drive action. That's the value. And so we can kind of clean up all that time lost. But that's the first kind of two steps, which is the data extraction element. So we've built individual bits of software that hook up to, you know, Sainsbury's Horizon, Tesco Link, Waitrose Connect, Ocado, all the systems you can imagine. So every major retailer, then Amazon, Shopify, WooCommerce, all those guys as well. So we do that. We pull out, you know, daily SKU level sales data or weekly store level if it's available. We pull all that out. We then do this thing called transform. So we transform the data, which is like cleaning up data. So if you've got you know, an Excel that's all over the place, it's, you know, making sure that it's all kind of clean. It's kind of in that way that we transform the data. So basically, you know, your Sainsbury's data can talk to your Tesco data. So, you know, if Sainsbury's week starts on a Sunday, but Tesco starts on a Monday, you can start kind of combining those things and making sure they actually can talk the same language. So that's done in the data infrastructure, which is in the data storage element. And then it's you know, the visualization piece. On the visualization, so this is kind of, you know, essentially up until here is where a brand just doesn't need to worry about anything. You know, it's all kind of done for them. It's in the background. It's always happening and running. They just log into a tool like this. So these are just sample numbers. So there's no numbers in particular here, but we've just got a sample data set. And you log in, and this sample data set has Amazon, Co-op, Pond & Bar, Ocado, Sainsbury's, Shopify, Waitrose, Whole Foods. But you've got your overview where, you know, you can see your sales by channel. So you say, okay, you know, here's all my sales by different retailers, and I can get rid of Amazon and get rid of Shopify to get rid of my e-com and flick it on a line graph and monthly or weekly, or download the data. Basically do everything you kind of want to do in that graph. Sales by product. So, you know, we can group things. So this is the transform element. So, you know, Sainsbury's might call, you know, dairy milk, and then Tesco might call it dairy milk Y. And then, so those two things don't always match. So they look like two separate sales, but actually it's fundamentally the same product to Cadbury's. And so if you can link those back in, and we do a lot of the cleanup there. So, you know, you fundamentally just got this product sold X, and we can do that by, you know, the flavor, the pack size, or whatever you want to do, however you want to combine your data. So there's lots of flexibility with the dashboard.
So you're basically you're helping the guys work out, right, am I comparing apples with apples, apples with pears, making sure all the data's on the apples and pears are in the same place, and then they can actually play around with the interface and customize it to the questions that they want to ask to interrogate it and pull the value out from it.
100%. And you can do that on multiple levels, right? So this is kind of like just a very quick overview, and you can see, you know, your sales by region for Amazon versus Sainsbury's, whatever. You can then go a little bit more granular and like start looking at, you know, for example, some rate of sale stuff. So you could, you know, go really deep into rate of sale and, you know, not just look by SKU like here, but, you know, go versus average price. You can see promotions or versus range or store type, all these things. So you can get an added layer down. But then you can keep going. And so you can go into the specific retailer's dashboard and say, okay, on Waitrose, let's look at, let's say, store metrics. So you can say store and actually say, let me just see this SKU in, you know, the last 2 months. Let's see how it's performing. So Canary Wharf's my biggest store. How's that doing versus the previous period? What percentage of sales? What's the stock count? So you can go really deep on store.
Brilliant.
And then the final level down, you know, you might look at, you know, the high level every day. So you'll make sure that daily sales are tracking the way they should. You might look at store level every week. And then you could look at something like, we've got like demographics dashboards, which can take a second to load, so I'll talk about what that is while it's doing it. But, you know, demographics to understand, you know, so you've got like what's selling, you know, what products are selling and how well that's going. You've got where, so what stores are selling, but then this is the who. So we can actually figure out based on postcode data and store level data, we can understand where you're selling best, which gives us an insight to who you're selling to. So the demographics of that area. And so we can start picking. So this is probably, you know, you're not going to look at this every week. You might, but, and you could, but it's more like monthly. It's about setting a high level strategy. Okay, who are the people that actually are buying our products? So if we look at here versus the UK population, you can, so ethnicity central, these are all like government, UK government assigned demographics about who people are. But for this, for example, you're massively overskewed towards this group called ethnicity central, whereas you're massively underskewed for rural residents. So that can start informing a marketing strategy, who you should be targeting, who you've got headroom for, your strategy with individual retailers. So if you're speaking to a buyer, you can actually come to them with really contextual information about your sales and say, actually, we already sell on Shopify, and from our Shopify store level, our Shopify store data, we can understand exactly who buys this product by. And then you could bring that to a Sainsbury's and say, look, we can fit this in with your strategy. So we can see that you're going after these types of people. We are the brand for those types of people. And so you can really inform that. And then, there's tons of stuff you can do with this, in terms of informing a wider strategy, but it's quite powerful, right? And this is the kind of thing that, to me, this is like the democratizing of data, right? This would take a big chunk of work for an individual brand to have to do, and they would have to really, really dedicate a lot of time to doing this. Because you're talking about, like, I think there's 2.5 million individual postcodes in the UK, and you have to map them against everything. It's quite a big chunky work, but it's something that we can do. This can be ready for a brand within 24 hours. So it's all ready to go. It's just on their dashboard. They get it as part of any regular pricing package that we have. And that can really, bring brands, massively forward in terms of, the conversations they can have, the strategies they can set, and kind of build that for them. But that's kind of the dashboard. The kind of other piece to this is there's essentially a bunch of actions that we provide, which is like, what are the stores that have stock but aren't selling, or what are the stores that are massively declining consistently over the last 4 weeks? What are the stores that haven't sold anything in 4+ weeks? We basically list out by SKU all store level insights, which are, incredibly useful for brands to then choose to use as they want. So if they have a small list of action stores, they might have, 10 stores of Sainsbury's that they need to follow up on for varying reasons that we provide. We actually give the manager's name of the store, the phone number of the store, the location, all the information about the store. Right. So you could feasibly pick up the phone if there's 10 of them, every week, and say, hey, I'm the manager of Dr. Will's, and I'd love to, chat to the manager and just see what's happening with our SKU X. Or if you have a field team or a field agency, you could go to them and say, right, forget about visiting every store every week or every month. I know the 50 stores you need to go to, and I know exactly what the problem is. So we can inform that a lot better, so that you're basically using resources really, really effectively, and in turn driving revenue as a result, because you're going to the stores that have problems, and that will get them back selling. So there's kind of a bunch of that. So there's basically like the extraction, the boring kind of data infrastructure and engineering bit. There's the visualization piece, which is, you have the ability to have all the data there every day that you possibly need. And then there's the actions bit that we can drive, and we can help you essentially, really provide value by, generating revenue that's being lost.
Yeah, it's such a good interface. Like when you showed me it last time, that I immediately bought into it, just because I am not a techie. I just hate it when somebody sends me like a sales presentation for a product, and it's full of all these like big dense graphs. It's like, well, what is the story? Whereas here, you've got the potential. You've got a small team of 3 in a startup, and you've got X amount of seed funding. You can be your own insights manager, can't you? Because you've got that live responsive data feed. And like you say, if you're a startup, you want to scale, you've got limited time, limited resources. You want to know exactly what stores to spend your time on activation. What is the core message for that buyer? How you differentiate? And if you can go and say, well, these are our shoppers. This is where we're going to activate them. This is how we're going to drive penetration, interest, and awareness for the brand. And you can sort of demonstrate the live results of it over like a 6-week trial. I mean, it's absolute gold dust, isn't it? Literally nobody's got that at the moment. And I also think as well, the like longer term, the application for that just being a great sales tool for sales guys going into meetings with bigger companies is huge, because the amount of times I speak to sales directors that, if I'm hiring a category manager, they say, look, I don't want a data monkey. I want somebody that's basically going to go in there and bring the numbers alive, bring some color to it. And this is just making it easy for them, isn't it? It's great.
And that's the whole thing. Like we used to have this a lot at Uber. you know, it was always drilled into us, what's the so what? So if you put a chart on a screen, so what?
Yeah.
You know, the chart says nothing. It's what you do as a result of that chart. And unless you can provide real insight, all data is meaningless. Like you have to be able to provide insight and actually have an action based on it. And that's entirely what we're doing here. We are always, every single time we look at a new data set or we're doing a new piece of analysis, it's always with, what are people going to actually do as a result? So, you know, if it's store level, if it's we're building our options tool, which we're launching in the next couple of days. By the time this out, probably it will have launched 4 weeks ago. But you know, all these tools are like, okay, great. Yeah, we can analyze your promotion, but what does that mean? Like, what does it actually mean? And so if we said, great, you had, you know, an ROI of XYZ, or you had incremental revenue or incremental profits of X, what does that, is that good or bad? And if it's good, then should I do it again? Like what's the next step of that? So we're building in a bunch of things from like a classical kind of statistics point of view, which is, you know, around price optimization strategies and all this kind of stuff that we'll just give, you know, as free, ready to go. And so you can just see, actually, so we can say your incremental revenue was X. That's good. And actually it looks like, you know, the stuff around like price sensitivity. So a 1% drop in price leads to a 3% increase in revenue, which is like highly price sensitive. So you should do more promotions is the actual action. So like, it's always, you know, there's a level of, you need to provide the answers that people need, and then also try and drive the action from that. And that's what we're trying to always do. Yeah.
Hopefully it'll give the sales guys that the brand owners bring in a bit of a toolkit as well to prize some of the possessiveness off them, because that you see a couple of brands do really well and then they get strangled by the founder's vision because they can't let go, they can't let it fly on its own 2 feet, you know. And this just seems like it just seems like a great tool for everyone. You touched on it there, obviously the so what question, but like one of the questions that sort of had for Cian is, like, what do you think makes successful leadership in a startup context? Because we've done quite a few podcasts looking at what leadership looks like in big corporates, but obviously, you know, you and Emily, it's an intense working relationship. You've had to build a product, you've got to market it, you've got to work out the application, work out the ideal customer. You kind of, you know, you're running the thing and you're driving it. Like, what's allowed you to do that? What kind of soft skills and what outlook and approaches do you think have formed the foundation for the success you've had so far with this?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing for me with this, and I think where, you know, early stage startups like us and like many of the brands we're working with, but also many of the companies and startups we've been in the past, you know, including Uber when we were there, it was, believe it or not the corporate behemoth it is today. It was a startup. You know, what consistently what I have seen, is execution wins over everything, and the ability to execute is just so vital in the early days, and really getting to, like, you know, if it's from our perspective, a lot of what we're doing is engineering, right, is product building and product design, you know, having a regular cadence of you know, trying to just constantly get things out and improve things, and, you know, never stopping and never being happy with where we are, it is so vital, and it works in product engineering, it works in, you know, sales. So I'm talking to loads of brands, and, you know, constantly just being on top of it and going after people and chasing. Like, you just need to do that. You know, not to use Uber too much as an example, but Uber was about all about on the ground execution. That's what Uber was about. Yeah, it was an amazing product, and, you know, the tech was incredible, and there was a phenomenal engineering team sitting in San Francisco in America. But there was people in every single city in the early days. Every single market that Uber was existing in, there was a full team on the ground with an office. They didn't do anything from San Francisco operationally. It was on the ground, because it was all about execution. It was literally about hitting the streets. It was about knocking on car windows and speaking to taxi drivers and asking them what they thought of Uber, and sometimes, you know, getting told to politely go away. But you're out there and you're talking to people, and, you know, so to me, I think, like, early days, it's about execution, and if you don't execute, you will just die as a start. A lot of startups die, and a lot of the time what it is they're just not executing quick enough and staying on top of what they're doing.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, we have a similar mantra in the office, actually, which is if it's worth doing, it's worth doing badly. Like, just don't overthink it. Just crack on. You can always improve
100%.
what you've started, but you can't improve anything if you've not started it.
Yeah.
We found that, like, there's so many things. Like, I mean, recruitment is very, very different to a tech startup or a food startup. But we've tried all kinds of things, like loads of stuff that's completely flopped. But I think just if you've got that mindset of continuous improvement and execution, then as long as you make sure you have a decent number of runners, then you're guaranteed to get a winner, aren't you? You know, you play the numbers game right and you always win. So, and that's interesting. So taking it away from the execution piece, obviously, you know, you guys have got like a classic, from what I can see anyway, like founders relationship, in that, you know, you know each other, your mates, you know, you worked at Uber before together. There's a genuine relationship. This is not just some like cold business contract, you know, like you guys like each other. So how do you keep the real relationship running cool when business gets like frenetic? Like, because that's a question that I come across in a lot of people I speak to. I've got other mates in the startups, is like how to juggle the kind of the real relationship piece, the weekends, with just a mad, you know, Monday to Friday. Like, how do you sort of get the balance right there, Cian?
So Emily and I are actually engaged. More than just friends. But I actually see it as a huge advantage from Elm's point of view. I see it as a massive advantage, because I think, you know, I've spoken to quite a few founders over the last few years about, you know, what makes a great partner, and from a business point of view, and pretty consistent message I hear is trust. Is trust in each other, and having 100% trust in each other. And you know, there's nothing more important than trust in a relationship that is, you know, soon to be married. And so I think we've got that from a business sense as well. And like, how do we manage, you know, having a personal relationship with a business relationship? So, you know, we met at Uber. You know, we've always had actually a business relationship first, in a weird way. We actually worked really well together. You know, day to day at Uber, we actually were on similar teams to each other, and would often work on projects together. So we've always worked really well together. But there's definitely, you know, it's a little bit harder in a lockdown world, because, you know, when your home is your office and your home is your home, and you're constantly kind of in the same mindset. But, you know, the ability to kind of step away from it, in, you know, going for a drink, going for dinner, you know, all those kind of things really do help, and like having clear parts of the day. But, you know, it's intense, and you know, I don't think either of us would change it. I think we both feel very appreciative that we have each other going through this, because it is intense to start a company like this, and having someone there that you can always kind of trust and kind of fall back on is really important.
Do you find you have to block in downtime, or do you naturally just approach downtime as
not really. We're not very militant with it, but yeah, it can get pretty intense. Emily's a tough worker, so she's working a lot. I can take my evenings off sometimes. I'm okay with that.
So I noticed you have a guitar in the background. I like that.
Yes, yeah, a couple of guitars here. Yeah, sometimes if a sales meeting's going bad, I can whip out a song and see what happens.
Give them a ballad to try and inject a bit of life into a dead meeting.
Yeah.
Who's favourite band at the moment? Any recommendations for the guys out there?
It's always some of the oldies, but of the new guys that are guitar focused, I guess Khruangbin is one. I'm learning a lot of them.
That's cool.
Khruangbin, yeah, they're good. You should check them out.
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah, we're like slaves at the moment in the office. And then
nice.
For our Christmas do, obviously not last year, 2019, we went to an Idols gig. That was pretty good. So
man, amazing.
It's like it's the typical cheesy recruitment nonsense, you know, like let's all go get wasted in Leeds and get into trouble. let's go to an Idols gig. Let's go be public. So what? Right, that's really interesting. So, you know, some great insights there, Cian. What's next for Elm? Like where are you guys going next? How can people look you up and follow you guys as well?
Yeah, so to be honest, you know, the thing I always say to people is, when it comes to kind of like tech and tech startups, you just never stop building. The product is never done, and so we're constantly going to be building product. We're hiring engineers at the moment, and you know, we recently did end of last year, did a fundraise to give us, security into the future and all that kind of stuff. So constantly building and making the product better. And, we work in kind of monthly sprints, monthly cadence, and every month we're releasing more and more products and more tools. So the product side is going to keep going. On the kind of like customer side, we're constantly bringing on more brands and, getting to work with more and more brands. Two of them are, I can't see the one in the top right.
You with Ollie's as well?
We have Ollie's as well, yeah. We're working with the guys at Ollie's. So
I copied Ollie's haircut, the utilitarian
nice.
down buzz. So he's my inspiration, not just my Ollie's, but my hair.
So yeah, we're gonna keep going on the customer side and speaking to as many brands and seeing how many brands we can help, and genuinely that's what we're trying to do is continue to build in a way that is helping brands. So on that side, on the we've got a couple of exciting conversations going on and some agreements made on partnering with the other side of this like marketplace, if you will, which is the retailers and the wholesalers and the logistics companies to actually build tools for them as well, so that they can give tools back to their customers. There's a bunch of angles there, and then probably into further into 2021, starting to look at other markets as well, and other types of tools. So right now it's quite focused on the sales tool. We have a lot of plans on supply chain and logistics side of things as well, and bringing data to that. But then also, America, Australia, and markets like that, our existing customers that are using us are asking us to start looking at their data sets from international too. So we'll start doing a bit of that as well. There's a bunch of things on the plate, but yeah, it's a matter of prioritizing.
That's it. Yeah. One of the things that struck me when you given me the demo last time is I was just thinking about the number of UK brands that have really smashed the US market, like Ugly, like Hugh, the guys there. Yeah. I mean, I think that's bigger than the UK for them now. They like Hugh, he like lives out in New York, doesn't he? He's a cool guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, America isn't as developed in data science as the UK is. It's retail and shoppers, partly because it's much bigger location. But I would imagine the export opportunities, the scale for smaller brands with a partner like Helmet are huge if they get that right, and they sort of build it into their DNA of how they communicate with future retail customers go right from the get-go. It's going to be a great kind of just part of their vocabulary, isn't it?
100%. And there's a lot of opportunity with the American market from what we've seen, either directly with retailers, so like Walmart, we've been looking at their systems, but also on the wholesaler side, we're doing a good bit of work on wholesaler side here, so that we can fit quicker into international markets where wholesaler there is that link in the chain, and so we can fit quicker into those markets and still provide value in terms of like actions that can be driven into insights or into revenue. So yeah, there's an opportunity.
Just a quick tangent question for me, it's just come to my head, but do you see the application for this in like pure players in e-commerce that want to get more utility out of their kind of online channels?
Yeah, so actually we've seen a number of brands come on that are pure e-com, and we've tried to stay away from moving outside of the world of FMCG and into broader e-com like fashion and all that kind of stuff. We're still trying to focus in on FMCG, but the application is there because of with Shopify, WooCommerce, Amazon, we have like LTV tools, retention tools, repeat rate tools, all these dashboards that are, again, they're really complex things to get right. And this was actually what I was doing a lot of, when I was consulting, was figuring out these things, the LTV, and getting that really accurate. We've now got tools that are really great. The kind of stuff that I wish I had, when I was building e-com stores. And so that's there and ready to use. So it's instantly usable for any just pure e-com player. But we are kind of putting slight blinkers on and focusing in on the FMCG market, because that's where we want to make sure that we're providing like very specific insights that help that market particularly.
And then for the guys that have enjoyed this, and I've no doubt people want to go and check you out, where can they find you on like Twitter, LinkedIn, all that kind of good stuff?
I'm not amazing on social media. I won't lie, but I put up a couple of things on LinkedIn. The best place to go is, we're getelm.co is the website. Our LinkedIn is Elm. I think it's just /getelm. So yeah, check us out on LinkedIn. And I think Twitter is getelmco. So yeah, anywhere there. Or, if you just wanted to have a chat with me, it's just hello@getelm.co. And I can kind of chat you through the product and see if it might be right for you.
Cool. Well, look, thanks so much for coming on the show, Cian. It's been an absolute privilege, loads of fun. Guys, go and check Elm out. You won't be disappointed. And we'll see you next time on the FMCG podcast.
Thank you, Rich.
Thanks to FMCGjobs.com for supporting this video. FMCGjobs.com is a global job advertising solution for the fast-moving consumer goods industry. Register for free as a candidate and create your specific job target to get live updates and alerts. Head over now to FMCGjobs.com for your next opportunity. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Check out the playlist here for more content like this. Click the donuts to subscribe so you never miss an update, and give us a like and a comment so we know what content you'd like to see from us. See you next time.